The red dust of Mars swirled around the dome of Colony Base 1 as Jack Miller stared through the reinforced windows at the strange lights in the sky. At first, he thought it was another supply ship from Earth, but the pattern was all wrong. After 10 years on Mars, he knew every scheduled arrival by heart. "Control, are you seeing this?" Jack's voice carried a mix of wonder and concern as he spoke into his comm unit. The lights grew larger, their formation too precise to be natural. "Affirmative," replied Tom from Control. "All sensors are active. Whatever it is, it's not one of ours." The colony's alert system activated with a soft hum rather than a blaring alarm. No need to panic the 5,000 colonists just yet. But within minutes, every off-duty security officer had reported to their stations, and the colony's modest defense systems were brought online. The unknown vessel descended with impossible grace, its silver hull reflecting the pale Martian sunlight. It was beautiful in a way that made human spacecraft look like children's toys, smooth lines and curves that seemed to bend physics itself. The ship was roughly the size of a small cargo vessel, but it moved like nothing humanity had ever built. As the vessel landed just outside the colony's perimeter, Jack and the security team assembled in the airlock chamber. Years of drills had prepared them for this moment, but nothing could truly ready them for humanity's first contact with an alien civilization. The aliens emerged from their ship wearing what appeared to be environmental suits, though far more elegant than the bulky human versions. They were humanoid, standing upright on 2 legs, but their movements were fluid, almost floating. 3 of them approached the colony's main airlock, while 2 remained with their ship. Following first contact protocols, Jack and his team met them in the neutral ground between the ship and the colony. The aliens raised their hands in what seemed to be a universal gesture of peace. "This is more civilized than we expected." One of the aliens spoke in perfect English, their voice transmitted through some kind of translation device. "We've been monitoring your communications for some time." Jack maintained his professional composure, though his heart raced. "Welcome to Mars Colony 1. I'm Operations Director Jack Miller. We are representatives of the Meridian Empire." The lead alien responded. "I am First Observer White. We come with greetings and an offer of friendship." The initial meeting lasted 3 hours. The Meridians, as they called themselves, shared impressive displays of their technology: holographic star maps, medical devices that could heal wounds instantly, and energy sources that made fusion look primitive. They spoke of trade, cultural exchange, and mutual benefits. But later that night, aboard their ship, the Meridians' true thoughts emerged in their report to the Empire. The human colony is primitive, barely managing to survive on this hostile world. Their technology is crude, their defenses negligible. While they show some promise in terms of resourcefulness, they pose no significant challenge to imperial expansion. Recommendation: proceed with standard absorption protocols. These humans will make adequate servants once properly civilized. First Observer White added a personal note. Their pride in their modest achievements is almost endearing. They believe their colony of 5,000 is impressive. How they will marvel when they see our worlds of billions. Their spirit will break easily when they understand their true place in the galaxy. What the Meridians failed to note was the determination in the colonists' eyes. They missed the significance of how these humans had carved life out of the red desert. They overlooked the subtle signs of innovation in every corner of the colony: the improved air recyclers, the enhanced radiation shielding, the modified farming systems. Each represented a problem solved through human ingenuity. Most importantly, they failed to understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their current level of technology, but in their relentless drive to improve, adapt, and overcome. The Meridians saw a primitive species worthy only of subjugation. They would soon learn their mistake. 6 months after first contact, the United Earth Council gathered in their underground chamber in Geneva. The meeting room buzzed with tension as representatives from every major nation studied the holographic display showing the Meridians' latest protection agreement. Council leader Robert stood at the podium, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of alien text. "They're offering us their antimatter drive technology," he said, "in exchange for mining rights on Mars and settlement zones on Earth." "It's too good to be true," said Director Anna, her fingers drumming on the marble table. She'd spent 15 years in military intelligence before joining the Council. No advanced civilization gives away technology like that without a hidden cost. The Meridian representatives waited in their quarters, confident in their standard procedure. They had done this 100 times before with other species. First, dazzle them with technology. Then, slowly establish a presence on their worlds. Finally, reveal the true cost when it was too late for resistance. But they hadn't counted on Pete Brown, a low-level data analyst at the Mars Colony Archives. While everyone else focused on the Meridian's amazing technology, Pete had been digging through their shared historical database, particularly the parts they thought humans couldn't access. "Director Miller," Pete called Jack late one night, "I found something in their records, something they tried to hide." His voice shook with urgency. "Remember that star system they said was uninhabited? The one they want us to help them mine. I found references to a native species called the Tellurians." Jack's blood ran cold. "What happened to them?" "They're gone. The Meridians offered them the same deal: protection and technology. Within 50 years, the Tellurians were peacefully integrated into the Empire. They're now a servant class, their home world stripped of resources. The evidence spread quickly through secure channels. The Meridians had done this before, many times. They would offer technology, establish bases, and slowly tighten their grip until the host species was too dependent to resist. During the next council meeting, the Meridians noticed something different about the humans. The eager gleam in their eyes had been replaced by careful calculation. When First Observer White presented their latest offer, defensive shield technology in exchange for military base rights, he saw something unexpected in their expressions: suspicion. "We need time to consider your generous offer," Robert said carefully. Behind his diplomatic smile, plans were already in motion. In secret bunkers across Earth and Mars, human engineers worked frantically to understand the tech they'd already received. They didn't trust the Meridian versions. They needed to make their own. Teams of scientists reverse-engineered every gift, looking for hidden weaknesses and kill switches. The Meridians grew impatient. "This phase usually went faster. Perhaps we should demonstrate our power more clearly," suggested Second Observer Gray. "A small show of force often accelerates negotiations." But First Observer White urged patience. "Let them think they have a choice. Their primitive minds need time to accept their inevitable future." What the Meridians didn't realize was that humans had been preparing for this moment since they first imagined meeting aliens. Every science fiction story of invasion, every movie about alien conquest, they had shaped humanity's response to this exact situation. In hidden facilities, Earth's militaries merged their forces. Ships were retrofitted with hybrid human Meridian technology. Weapons were developed that combined Earth's primitive but effective designs with advanced alien principles. The Meridians saw only what they expected to see: a species struggling to understand gifts beyond their comprehension. They didn't notice the determination in every lab, the coordination between former rivals, the midnight meetings between world leaders. They didn't realize that humans had learned the most important lesson: trust must be earned, not given. And the Meridians hadn't earned it at all. The trap was set. Now they just had to wait for the Meridians to spring it. The Meridians struck at dawn. Their warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, expecting an easy victory over Earth's primitive defenses. First Observer White watched from the command ship, already composing his victory report in his mind. "Begin the subjugation protocol," he ordered. "Disable their major military installations. Minimum casualties. We want useful servants, not martyrs." The first plasma bolts lit up the sky over Nevada. The Meridians targeted what their scans showed as Earth's largest military base. Their sensors detected no significant defense systems, no energy shields, Nothing that could stop their advanced weapons. The bolts never reached their target. Instead, they splashed harmlessly against an invisible barrier. A shield system reverse-engineered from the Meridian's own gift technology, but modified in ways their engineers had never considered. The humans had discovered that adding a rotating frequency modulation made the shields 4 times more effective. Impossible, White whispered, watching his display. They couldn't have. But they had. For 6 months, while pretending to barely understand the Meridian's gifts, human engineers had been taking them apart, improving them, and preparing for this exact moment. Earth's response was devastating in its simplicity. Hundreds of what appeared to be civilian cargo ships suddenly dropped their holographic disguises, revealing heavily armed vessels. The Meridians had been tracking Earth's military ships so carefully, they'd completely ignored the civilian fleet. Multiple weapon locks detected. A Meridian officer reported, panic in his voice. They're targeting systems. They're using our own protocols against us. The first wave of human ships struck from behind, using the Meridian's own formation against them. They had studied Meridian battle tactics from the historical records they weren't supposed to be able to access. The Meridian's rigid, predictable patterns were suddenly a weakness, not a strength. On Mars, Jack Miller watched the space battle through the colony's enhanced sensors. Launch the miners, he ordered. The Meridians ignored the small mining vessels leaving Mars' surface. Their sensors classified them as non-threats, just as the humans knew they would. It was only when the miners were in position that the truth became clear. Each mining ship had been retrofitted with massive electromagnetic pulse generators, crude by Meridian standards, but devastating when used in mass. The pulse waves played havoc with the Meridian's delicate shield harmonics. Their technology is too primitive to affect us, White had assured his commanders during the planning phase. Now, watching his ship's shields flicker and fail, he realized primitive didn't mean ineffective. The space around Earth turned into a graveyard of Meridian ships. Their perfect formations broke apart under the combined assault of electromagnetic pulses and modified weapons. Human vessels, smaller but more maneuverable, darted between the larger alien ships, striking at weak points the Meridians didn't even know they had. Fall back, White ordered, but it was too late. The human ships had positioned themselves precisely to cut off their retreat paths. It was a strategy so obvious, so simple, that the Meridians' advanced battle computers hadn't even considered it as a possibility. In Geneva, the United Earth Council watched the battle unfold. Send the message, Robert ordered. The transmission reached every surviving Meridian ship. This is humanity's first and only warning. We gave you a chance for honest friendship. You chose deception. Leave now, and tell your empire what happened here. Tell them what happens when you underestimate humans. First Observer White's ship limped back through hyperspace, along with a third of his original fleet. His report to the Empire would be very different from the one he'd planned. The humans weren't primitive. They weren't simple. And they certainly weren't going to be easy to conquer. They were something far more dangerous. They were innovative, adaptable, and now they were angry. The real war was just beginning. 3 months after repelling the first Meridian attack, Earth's technology had changed beyond recognition. Every captured piece of alien tech had been dissected, studied, and improved upon by thousands of engineers working around the clock. In a converted airplane hangar in Arizona, Dr. Lisa walked between rows of dismantled Meridian engines. Her team had done the impossible. They'd not only understood the alien technology, but had found ways to make it better. The Meridians over-engineered everything, she explained to the military observers. They focused so much on elegance that they missed simpler solutions. Look at this, she pointed to a modified engine core. They used quantum harmonics to stabilize the power flow. We found out a simple copper coil works just as well, and it's 1,000 times cheaper to produce. Across the planet, humanity's industrial base transformed. Car factories now produced spacecraft parts. Smartphone manufacturers retooled to make advanced sensor arrays. Even toy companies contributed, their expertise in miniaturization proving unexpectedly valuable. In orbit, the International Space Station had become a military command center. Captain Mark floated through its expanded corridors, watching teams of technicians install hybrid human meridian systems. The station's new shield generator was a perfect example of human innovation. It used 30% less power than the Meridian original but provided 50% more protection. "How's that possible?" a junior technician had asked. Mark smiled. "The Meridians built their shields to be perfect in every direction. We figured out you don't need that. Concentrate the power where you need it most. Leave just enough for the rest. It's like wearing stronger armor on your chest than your back." On Mars, the changes were even more dramatic. The colony had transformed into a fortress, but not in the way the Meridians would have done it. Instead of elegant energy towers and quantum barriers, the humans had gone primitive and deadly effective. They buried simple but powerful electromagnetic pulse generators in the Martian soil. They modified the colony's dust removal systems to create sensor-blocking storms on demand. Old mining tunnels became ammunition depots and emergency shelters. "The Meridians think in straight lines," Jack explained during a defense briefing. "They'll expect us to upgrade everything to their level of technology. They won't expect us to combine their tech with our primitive solutions." In secret facilities under the Pacific Ocean, engineers worked on humanity's new fleet. The ships looked crude compared to Meridian vessels, but appearances were deceiving. Inside their rough exteriors were innovations that would have shocked their alien enemies. "They'll be looking for perfect formations and predictable attack patterns," Admiral Wilson told his officers. "We'll give them chaos instead. Each ship is different. Each captain has freedom to improvise. The Meridians won't know what to expect because there won't be a pattern to analyze." Even civilian technology evolved rapidly. Smartphones now incorporated alien communication principles. Cars ran on modified versions of Meridian power cells. The internet had been upgraded with quantum encryption that even the aliens couldn't crack. But humanity's greatest adaptation wasn't technological, it was psychological. The fear of alien invasion had been replaced by determination. Every human now understood they weren't just fighting for survival, they were proving something fundamental about their species. In a small lab in Tokyo, a researcher made a discovery that perfectly illustrated this point. She found that Meridian AS systems, for all their complexity, couldn't handle unexpected input. They crashed when faced with solutions their programmers hadn't anticipated. "They built their systems to be perfect," she reported, "but we've always built ours to handle failure. That's our strength. We expect things to go wrong, so we plan for it." As humanity prepared for the inevitable second wave of attacks, they knew they had an advantage the Meridians couldn't understand. Every failure, every setback, every problem would make them stronger. The Meridians were about to learn that adaptation wasn't just a human trait, it was our superpower. Admiral Wilson stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Victory, watching as his fleet assembled near Jupiter's orbit. The ships looked nothing like the elegant Meridian vessels. They were blocky, asymmetrical, and bristling with both human and hybrid weapons. "Fleet status," he commanded. "All ships report ready," his tactical officer replied. "The mining ships are in position around Europa. Cargo vessels have completed their modifications. Even the old space tugs are armed and ready." The fleet they'd assembled would have made any traditional military commander laugh. Alongside proper warships were converted cruise liners, rebuilt cargo haulers, and dozens of mining vessels. But that was exactly the point. No Meridian combat computer could properly predict the capabilities of such a mismatched fleet. The warning came through faster than light communications, another piece of stolen tech that humanity had improved. Massive Meridian fleet detected entering the solar system. At least 300 warships. Wilson smiled. The Meridians had come in force this time, determined to crush the upstart humans. But they were about to learn some hard lessons about human ingenuity. "Launch Operation Trojan," Wilson ordered. The space around Europa came alive. What the Meridian sensors showed as simple ice mining operations were actually weapon platforms in disguise. Humanity had spent months hollowing out portions of the moon, turning it into one massive trap. The Meridian fleet approached in perfect formation, their ships arranged in the same elegant patterns their tactical computers had determined were optimal. First Observer White, demoted but still in command, felt confident. This time they had overwhelming force. Their fleet is so disorganized, he noted with disdain. This will be simple. The first shot wasn't fired by either fleet. Instead, Europa's surface erupted. The humans had planted hundreds of electromagnetic pulse generators beneath the ice. The coordinated burst hit the Meridian fleet from below, where their shields were weakest. Impossible, White shouted as his ship's systems flickered. They turned an entire moon into a weapon. The human fleet struck from multiple directions at once. Converted cargo ships released clouds of metallic dust that played havoc with Meridian sensors. Old space tugs used their powerful engines to push asteroids into the enemy formation. Mining lasers, originally designed to cut through ice and rock, proved surprisingly effective against Meridian hull armor. They're not following any known combat doctrine. A Meridian tactical officer reported, panic in his voice. Each ship is fighting differently. That was exactly the point. Humanity had learned that uniformity was a weakness. Each ship captain had been encouraged to be creative, to try unexpected tactics. There was no pattern for the Meridians to analyze, no standard approach to counter. The battle reached its peak when the humans unveiled their masterstroke. The converted cruise liners, which the Meridians had dismissed as easy targets, suddenly activated their secret weapons. Their massive passenger quarters, designed to provide artificial gravity, had been turned into oversized magnetic accelerators. Fire the railguns, Wilson commanded. Thousands of simple metal slugs, accelerated to incredible speeds, tore through the Meridian fleet. Their advanced shields, designed to stop energy weapons and plasma bolts, proved surprisingly vulnerable to good old-fashioned kinetic impacts. Their shields are calibrated for complex energy weapons, Wilson explained to his crew. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. The Meridian fleet broke formation for the first time in their military history. Their perfect patterns shattered as ships tried to escape the barrage of primitive but devastating weapons. Their advanced combat computers, unable to calculate responses to such unpredictable attacks, began to fail. White watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart by weapons that his civilization had considered obsolete centuries ago. The humans weren't just using Meridian technology. They were combining it with their own methods in ways his people had never imagined. As his ship retreated from the solar system, White finally understood. The humans hadn't just adapted to Meridian technology. They had surpassed it. The hunters had become the hunted. The Meridian Empire's High Council gathered in their crystal spire on their homeworld, their faces grim as they watched recordings of their fleet's defeat at Jupiter. For the first time in 1,000 years, the council chamber was filled with fear. How did we fail to see this coming? The High Commander demanded. They were primitive, barely able to reach their own moon when we found them. In a secure lab on Earth, Dr. Lisa had finally cracked the Meridian's greatest secret. She stared at her computer screen, double-checking her calculations before calling an emergency meeting with military command. Their entire shield technology has a fundamental flaw, she explained to the gathered leaders. It's so basic that they never thought to defend against it, like building a castle but forgetting to guard the front door. The discovery had come from an unlikely source, a college physics student who'd been playing video games while studying Meridian shield frequencies. He'd noticed that their shields created a specific resonance pattern, like a musical note, and like a wine glass shattering when hit with the right frequency. The shields had a critical weakness. They're so advanced that they overlook the basics, Dr. Lisa continued. Their shields can stop a plasma blast that would destroy a planet, but they can't handle simple harmonic resonance. Admiral Wilson immediately understood the implications. How fast can we modify our weapons? Hours, she replied. The principle is surprisingly simple. Any first-year physics student could understand it. On Mars, Jack Miller oversaw the modification of the colony's defense systems. They weren't building new weapons. They were simply adjusting the ones they had to emit the right frequency. The Meridians' greatest defense would become their greatest weakness. The final battle began when the Meridians launched their desperate assault. They came with their largest fleet yet, over 500 ships, determined to end the human threat once and for all. "They still don't get it," Wilson said, watching the enemy fleet approach. "They're still using the same tactics, the same technology. They haven't adapted at all." The human fleet waited near Mars, their ships arranged in what appeared to be random positions. Each vessel had been modified to emit the shield-breaking frequency. But the real surprise wasn't the weapons. It was how they would be used. "Begin Operation Symphony," Wilson ordered. Each human ship began emitting its frequency at a slightly different time, creating a cascading wave of resonance. The effect on the Meridian fleet was catastrophic. Their shields didn't just fail. They collapsed in a chain reaction. Impossible. The Meridian commander watched in horror as ship after ship lost its primary defense. Their weapons are barely more advanced than sound waves. That was exactly the point. The humans hadn't tried to match the Meridians' level of technology. Instead, they'd found a simple solution that made all that advancement meaningless. The battle turned into a rout. Without their shields, the Meridian ships were vulnerable to even the simplest human weapons. Their elegant armor, designed to withstand advanced energy weapons, proved surprisingly fragile against conventional explosives and kinetic impacts. "Send the message," Wilson commanded as the Meridian fleet retreated in chaos. Across all frequencies, in every language the Meridians used, the same words were broadcast. "Your technology is impressive, but you forgot the fundamentals. This is what happens when you mistake simplicity for weakness. This is what happens when you underestimate humans." The remaining Meridian ships fled, leaving behind a graveyard of their most advanced vessels, all defeated by a principle so basic that most species discovered it before they learned to write. In the Crystal Spire, the High Council received the battle reports with stunned silence. For the first time in their history, they faced an enemy who didn't just overcome their technology. They found ways to turn it against them. The unthinkable had happened. The Meridian Empire had reached its breaking point. 1 year after the shield-breaking battle, the Grand Hall of the United Earth Council looked very different. Alongside human representatives sat delegates from a dozen alien species, former subjects of the Meridian Empire who had seized their chance at freedom. The Meridian diplomatic vessel that landed was nothing like their previous warships. It was small, humble, and escorted by human ships. From it emerged the new High Commander, chosen after their previous leadership had been forced to step down. "We have come to negotiate peace," the High Commander announced, no trace of their former arrogance remaining. "The Empire recognizes Earth and its colonies as a sovereign power." Admiral Wilson, now Earth's chief negotiator, allowed himself a small smile. "Please, take a seat. We have much to discuss." The peace terms were unprecedented in Meridian history. They would withdraw from all human claimed systems, share their complete technological database, and most importantly, free all subjugated species who wished independence. "You don't understand," the High Commander protested weakly. "Our empire has stood for 10,000 years. You're dismantling centuries of order." Dr. Lisa, sitting at the negotiating table, pulled out a simple glass and a tuning fork. "See this?" She struck the fork, holding it near the glass, making it vibrate. "This is how we broke your most advanced shields. Sometimes the simplest things can shatter what seems unbreakable." The message was clear. The Meridians' carefully constructed empire, like their shields, had been broken by principles they'd forgotten long ago. Freedom, adaptability, and the strength that comes from diversity. On Mars, Jack Miller watched the negotiations via holographic feed while overseeing the construction of humanity's first faster-than-light shipyards. Unlike Meridian designs, these incorporated both advanced technology and simple, reliable human engineering. The Meridians built their empire on the assumption that advanced technology meant advanced thinking. He explained to a group of alien engineers who had come to learn from humans. They forgot that true advancement comes from keeping an open mind. The final peace treaty included provisions that would have been unimaginable months ago. Earth would lead a new coalition of independent species, sharing knowledge and resources while respecting each civilization's sovereignty. The Meridian Empire would be transformed into a cooperative alliance, with safeguards against any future attempts at conquest. But how will you maintain order? The High Commander asked. Every species is different. Their approaches will be chaotic, unpredictable. Exactly, Wilson replied. That's not a weakness. It's our greatest strength. Look how our chaotic approaches defeated your perfect order. In the years that followed, humanity's influence spread throughout the galaxy, not through conquest, but through innovation. Earth became known as a place where ancient wisdom and new ideas merge, where simplicity and complexity work together. The Meridians, too, began to change. Their rigid society slowly learned to value diversity of thought. Their engineers started looking for elegant solutions in simple places. They discovered that their art became more beautiful when they stopped pursuing perfection and embraced imperfection. On the 10th anniversary of the peace treaty, ships from 100 worlds gathered in Earth's orbit for a celebration. Among them was First Observer White, now a teacher at a mixed-species academy on Mars. I once thought humans were primitive, he told his students, a mix of species from across the galaxy. I was wrong. They taught us that true advancement isn't about having the most complex solution. It's about finding the right solution, whether it's advanced or simple. As fireworks lit up Earth's sky, visible even from Mars, humanity had proven something remarkable. In a galaxy of ancient empires and advanced civilizations, sometimes the youngest species had the most to teach. The message was clear to all. This is what happens when you mess with humans. We don't just survive. We help everyone grow stronger together.